Hey guys, Scott here, Pine Barren Craftsman. I want to talk about something kind of deep and it's really tied to me personally, and I want to express it. Maybe it'll help somebody, um, and it might not be that interesting to some people. But the story goes deep down as a young man coming into Newtown when I moved to my home in Jersey as a young kid with my family. In middle school, basically, I learned very quickly, about the dynamic between guys and their friends, buddies, and the hierarchy that's there. And it's so funny because it's such an important part of our society. It's all there in the schoolyard, right? We always say, well, you guys are like a bunch of kids in the schoolyard, and it's pretty much where it goes down. You see this hierarchy between who's the tough, who's the jester, who's the silly, who's the emotional, the wreck. That was kind of like me over there a little bit with the emotional and the silly. But we put up these faces in school, like we gotta figure out what we're into, figure out who we are, figure out how we're going to deal, and then you start getting the interest in well, I like this girl over here. Like I want to impress her, and then you got to figure out how to do that. Are you going to be the guy that's going to dog the guy that you're friends with to make yourself look good? Like, is that the guy code, right? Or is it like every man for himself, right? Yeah, the second the kid's back's turned, you're going to talk about something that's not cool about the guy. Maybe it's embarrassing just to ruin him. And it's so funny because ironic. It's like this happens. This happens in school. This is where it starts. And I'm coming in as an innocent because I was behind the maturity level. So I feel like I was more innocent, right? I wasn't attuned or accustomed to this type of mentality. Maybe because I wasn't in daycare. Maybe because I wasn't in really the same school system. I didn't grow up with the kids that I was comfortable with. Because as you grow at your little pod, you figure out your micro, hierarchy, and you can spread out. And he's the leader. This guy's this guy, and he's this and that. I had friends in Woodridge, New Jersey. Probably, hopefully, one day they look me up. And I miss them. The day I left, I was like, I'm gonna see them forever. But I had to go to a new school, and there was already these little pockets of people. So now I'm the new guy, right? And that sticks with you for about 2-3 years. Luckily, I had some good friends that popped up and spent time with me, and they were real. Like that's what I'm talking about, the maturity level. Like I think I met people that we were on the same maturity level, right? A lot of times you see kids with guys with, I'm going to stick with the guys on this because I don't understand girls. I don't really ever figure them out. But, guys that had older brothers, now they have shoes to walk in. They have steps that they could figure out and they can live in their shadow in some ways. They might not want to admit it, but in some ways you could at least bounce off of the shadow and say, I'm not going to be like him. But I had no example. I had my older sister, which is a different thing altogether. So, you try to dive into this society and make it out with your dignity intact, with your pride, your ego, and you get through middle school, right? Maybe you joined up to football, maybe you got into skateboarding, maybe you did this, that, and the other, soccer, and you start to dissect it. And at some point, right, around 18, I think, it starts to get shaken up. You're going to leave high school, you're graduating, what's your deal, who you are. And maybe the way you lived in high school, you didn't do as good as you wanted to mentally in classes, maybe with the chicks, maybe you didn't do good with the friends, maybe you did, maybe you had hot and cold things, and maybe you got picked on, right? I was a kid that got picked on, I was a kid that got stood up for, and I was on both sides of it. I got a good mix. The picking on really helped me to figure out that I'm going to be a good person and I'm not going to pick on people the way they picked on me. So that was a good thing. So when they say bullying is bad, it is bad. But the bullying was just bad enough where I was able to get stronger from it, right? And just say, you know what? And then the deeper part to this is when you're in an argument with somebody or you're trying to clown with somebody and they're making fun of you. how much do you drop on them? Do you really go hard on them and really hurt the kid and really try to make, if you got some dirt on this kid and you're going to make him look stupider than stupid, you might say something that might stick with everybody in that room for the rest of that month or that week. It might really hurt his chances at finding a nice girl or finding a friend to hang out with or being cool, right? Which is what everybody cared about. That's why the smokes came out. As much as everybody wants to say it, you didn't want to be left alone. So the guys go over there and they smoke cigarettes. And those were the cool guys. You want to go over there, you got to do that. So that's where the peer pressure comes in. So all this is in the wash. It's in the mix. You know, drugs and alcohol find their places in there. There's that little thing, right? They call it the conscience, Jiminy Cricket, right? There's little good and bad angels. If you leave the room for that, you kind of listen and you find out who you're supposed to be. That's the whole person. If you listen to it really closely, like I did, no matter how many times people try to ask me to drink a beer, I never liked it. I never liked the taste of it. You're not a guy. I had to walk around my entire life up to this point being partially judged by certain people that really enjoy indulging and having fun and letting loose, and me being someone that's not that comfortable with it. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't like the way I feel after the next day. I don't want to drive home drunk. I don't want to lose my license. I had all these anxieties and stresses built up, maybe from after school specials, maybe from the taste, maybe from 1,000 different things, but it's who I am. Right? I can't shake that. You can tell yourself all day long you're going to do something and you don't do it because it's just not what you want to do. So all this being said, now, okay, you figured that out. You're not into that. Are you going to be the type of person who holds your word? How do you learn that? Well, somebody lied to me one time, let me down, hurt me. I don't want to be a liar. Or are you going to be a person that lies even more? He got away with it. Now I'm going to lie every day. I'm going to lie whenever I need to because I don't have any care in the world because I got screwed. That's the dark side. I mean, I'm sorry to say it. There's white lies, there's embellishments, there's fibs, there's, this gray area which we allow ourselves. And I try to stick as hard as I can to telling the truth. And it stays with me to this day because if I take a job and somebody says, are you going to be there at this time? Yeah, I'll be there. I get there. And I tell them I'm going to have a half-hour break. It's in my head the entire time at lunch. I got to get back in a half an hour. Even if there's nobody at the building, I'm thinking to myself, someone might show up. I want to be honest. I want to be the person that I'm hired to be. That integrity keeps me up if I don't do that stuff. I'm not sitting here bragging about what I am and how you should be like me. I'm a horrible person in a lot of ways. I have anger issues. I get mad easily. I get very emotional. And not in a crying way, but I get emotional in a physical way where I dwell on things. I think way too much about things that don't matter. I have fears. I had a fear of flying for the first 28 and 30 years of my life, I got on a plane one time and flew one direction and I took a bus or train home. 30 hours on a train to get back from New Orleans. But whatever. I have flaws, right? I'm very particular. I'm very particular on things and how I carry myself with the integrity. Like if I catch my family, anybody telling a white lie, I call them out like it's the worst thing ever because I think a lie is the worst thing ever. It just wastes time and hurts people. So long story short, I'm adding up to this to a point that when we get into the corporate world, we get into business, we get into other families, we get into in-laws, meeting new families. All this baggage and this personality and everything that we are is all wrapped up. But if you're confident who you are, you're going to be okay. You're going to succeed. You're going to rise above everything because now you got this base built. It's unshakable. If you're like on the sand, right? They say these biblicals, building on sand, right? Whatever. I'm not going to sit here and quote verse, but because I don't even go to church. Okay, I'm not going to pretend to be anything I'm not. I don't know what I believe some days. But if you're building your personality on pillars of sand, let's say, be easy to change, easy to crumble, easy to get persuaded, and then you're right there, you're in the negative. Very easily. The road that's easy, right? Might not be the best road. You got to work hard sometimes. You got to. So, It took me a long time to figure all this stuff out. I'm 40 now. And now I'm starting to say, man, if I only knew now, what I know now back then, what could I have done different? That's why I've been doing these little videos here and there to talk to the younger crowd. It's so important. Nothing is wrong if you trust your heart, you trust your gut. I believe we are intentionally good people, okay? I think we get persuaded to do bad things. And I think we get stuck in these ruts. I'm talking about like not talking to somebody you argued with because you know you're right. It's a horrible trait. Don't do that. Don't ruin your friendship or your family or your life because of some really insignificant stuff. Let it go. It's not important. And I'm talking about current state of affairs. Does it really matter what Fox News and CNN said? Does it really matter between you and your family or your friends? No, it doesn't. Because these people are just exploiting our minds and trying to do whatever they want to do to us to make us continue to watch and get ratings. Don't allow yourself to get persuaded from who you are and not talk to family and not talk to friends. Get over it. Even if you were right. Hey, man, there's been times where I stuck to guns and I was wrong and I'm sorry and I apologize. You got to say you're sorry. So, how we treat each other in society directly affects the schoolyard. This is the point of the video. I've said it several times. If you're raising kids and you know that they have personality traits that you're seeing as being one or the other, it's going to be hard to erase those because they are who they are, right? I really believe that as far as personality goes, it starts to get instilled from mimicking our parents, but also there's things that I never did in front of my son and he has them. Nobody. And it's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. Sometimes it's an interesting thing. If I go in there and I try to root out that and I know it's naturally him, it's going to be hell. I'm going to fight him for the rest of my life. He's going to resent me as a teenager. He's going to resent me as a 20-year-old. There's things in family that you got to realize they're their own people. So that's a big thing. So now, you want to guide them. You don't want to get them in trouble. You want to guide them into the right way. And I get it. Live your life, set the example, and let it go. You got to. I mean, I fought hard with my dad and mom about topics. And to this day, I always did everything the way I wanted to. I was rebellious in that sense because I wanted to say I could do it myself. But I turned out just like all the good traits that they are and any of the bad traits that they are. It's who I am, but it's mixed up in a different way. And I'm happy with who I am. I'm happy where I came from. I'm happy I got made fun of. I'm happy I didn't stand up for myself the day I got pushed. I'm happy I had to walk with that kind of stress, and think about it. I should. Because that's building confidence next time to understand, somebody never got pushed and thrown to the ground by anybody. When that happens, it's almost like your onboard cameras, like, what is happening here? And not only that, but you're in public. And then I found friends that I didn't even know cared about me, stood up for me. They went over and they talked to that guy and they said, don't mess with Scott. What's wrong with Scott? Leave Scott alone. You got to pick on Scott? Hey, I didn't even know that was Scott. Here you go. I would have gotten into a fist fight, broke my nose, lost a tooth, got expelled, maybe hurt them, right? All because of a mistaken identity in a school that we should all know each other and be friends. We're in the same grade. We didn't know each other. I'll never forget it. So be somebody that stands up for the little guy, as long as it's not going to get anybody hurt, or if you see the guy getting picked on and you don't want to go get involved because you don't want to get beat up, be the guy that's there after the fact and say, you know what? Like the Wonder Years. You watch the Wonder Years, man. Winnie Cooper, Kevin Arnold. Be like that. Be like Paul. I hope somebody gets something out of this video. It was fun. It's deep. It's interesting to me to share this because maybe somebody's right now is struggling with who they are, their identity crisis. Okay, I had an identity crisis. I wanted to be a really good guitar player and I wasn't. I'm still not. I wanted to be a really big lifter and I wasn't. I was 175 pounds and I tried my hardest to lift weights, hurt myself to get big and tough like a big man. I'm 5'10". Can't be that big. And just do Do you every day. That's why I said quit the job, man, if you're not happy. Don't let people push you around. If you're a doormat and you don't mind being a doormat, that might be something that's a trait that you might be able to share with somebody else and be like, listen, I really don't care what these people say to me. They can say and do whatever they want. But as long as they don't touch me, I'm good. That might be your line. Some people don't like to be challenged, and that's their line. You mean to tell me you're ready to go to fisticuffs with this guy because he called you a name? You're going to punch him? You're going to get in trouble, or you're going to get yourself beat up. Think about it. What did he say? Is that important, right? The bravados, like I did this with my life, you did that with your life. I have this car, I have this job, or you're this and that. It's all pointless. It's all in our heads. It's all constructs in our own heads to try to make ourselves feel good or bad. This is coming from a person that's always been kind of down on himself and getting confidence later. You know? Hopefully it helps. Like, share, subscribe. If you got this far, I appreciate 16 minutes in. You know, bring up some points. If I said anything here that speaks to you, let me know. You know, were you picked on? Were you somebody that, you know, took things to heart? Were you somebody that was real snappy, like a chainsaw, ready to go to red line? You know, like, what's your deal, you know? Being silly was always the easiest. Everybody would just laugh. But that still is hollow, you know? People are laughing at you, but maybe you got deeper thoughts than that, you know? Thanks for watching.